Good evening, good evening, good evening, sisters and brothers. This is the Melanin Report 360. The Melanin Report 360. The Melanin Report 360. So we have a couple of topics we want to address: COVID and also the bomb. So like, share, subscribe. Melanin Report 360 coming at you live. And I want to give a shout out to a couple of friends. You know who you are. So yeah, let's go into it, get into it. Because I don't want to miss a beat. I definitely want to um, read fair use disclaimer. And if you hear kitty cat in the background, that's my Bonnie. She's saying hi to everyone. So fair use, copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for the purposes such as criticism, comments, news, reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that may otherwise be infringing. So get that out the way, get it out the way. So like, share, and subscribe the Melanin Report 360, Melanin Report 360, Melanin Report 360. So I want to first talk about the Obama, which is also known as Anthony Werner. And that is the latest report coming through Nashville. So Anthony Werner, I believe that's how you pronounce it. So, in the reporting, I was trying to figure out, okay, Anthony, that name is kind of in the middle, wasn't sure the ethnicity. So as I was listening to the reporting, along with a very good friend here of mine, but we were both watching the same report, and we were like, that Anthony is questionable, and now Warner, I think that's the way you pronounce it, Warner, that was like, And then we were listening to the report. So the reporting went as the bomber, what was the motive, very passive, not aggressive. So I figured out within like 8 minutes, I guess, of the reporting, we pretty much both recognized it was a Caucasian. And so later on, they never said his ethnicity. So the way they were putting words together, they did not go back and blast the picture. I didn't see a picture on the network I was watching. So I don't know if there's a picture, but I had to look for the picture. And so with that, I was like, wow. So it's like front and center, because I know that African Americans, melanated sisters or brothers, if we had been, we were accused of that crime, heinous crime, they would have said monstrous act. The language is very different. And, even when they're talking about deceased brothers and sisters, they're always under scrutiny. They're always under suspicion, even in death. They tried to do that with Trayvon Martin. He had marijuana in his system, for example, if that was the case. They're trying to make the victim, actually the perpetrator, even in death. So it was really curious to me how they were sugarcoating the discussion about him, humanizing him, and maybe playing down because there wasn't that many casualties, because he was self-inflicted. He wanted to, to be bye-bye in the van, so, or the camper. But, the language, it's just remarkable how biased, even the language in discussing this heinous act, because clearly he didn't know how many people would perish in that act. He did not have an idea or anything. 15 minutes is not a lot of time to get information to a community. If it was, people downtown or in the area of I'm not sure the Nashville. I haven't been there a couple of times, perhaps, but I don't know the layout. I believe there was some condos or something kind of wedged in the live work communities. And so I can only imagine the panic, of people who were in that immediate area and their families, especially on the holiday. That was just it was just like remarkable. So he purposefully chose that day. And they said, well, there wasn't going to be too many people in that area, trying to humanize him. Why do they try to humanize people? Dylan Roof, they tried to humanize him. They took him out to Burger King or McDonald's or something like that before they took him to be booked. This, he was what, 21, 25 years old. And, he sat in the church to Bible study, and he knew what he was going to do. This man knew this person, I won't even say man, this, perhaps I don't even want to say human. So I will say this coward. If you want to kill yourself, hey, I'm not going to stop you. If it's your time to go, it's your time to go. If you're going to sanction that on yourself, hey, I'm not the one to stop you, okay? But to possibly take children, women, and babies and men along with you, he was not that precise, because there were some injuries, my understanding. But Dylan Roof, that was the same kind of situation, humanizing these monstrous acts, these monsters in our community, trying to find a quote unquote motive. There would have been a motive. Why would you even say the language? What could possibly be motive? He had a business. He took he put his property. This is a month ago. My report. He kind of sold a property, or for no cost, no money was exchanged, but he actually took his property out and put it into a woman's name. I don't know if it was a person he was involved with. I don't know those details. Clearly, he was in right mind. He was in quote unquote right mind. Okay, so he had all those steps along the way. So we knew right away with the languaging or not the despicable language. They were, well, what was the motive? Perhaps he was a loner. I mean, that's justification. That's totally just justified. You should blow up yourself and half of the community, because he was he was in computers, and apparently he had a alarm company. So he knew about the timing of stuff, this and that. So he knew all of the moving parts that would have allowed him to make such um, an event to really, he could have killed hundreds of people. The blast was such that it could have, if it destroyed buildings, obviously, but it could have, there could have been more lives lost. So I think the languaging, I knew proof positive it was a white male, clearly, because they didn't use that language in the description. They said loner. He lived at his parents' house for quite a while, I guess most of his adult life, perhaps. And the person I was watching it with, she was like, I think he's, we were just figuring it out, trying to connect all the dots, saying it was probably a white guy, you know. And he's a coward. Dylan Ruth was a coward. That was what, 6, 7 years ago? I mean, there's so many. The guy in Colorado, he was a loner. Um, he was a misfit. He didn't fit in. I mean, they would have had the fifth grade track coach teacher, this guy, if it was a brother or sister, melanated person, honey, they would have been going back to the fifth grade teacher and maybe the track coach. I mean, they just don't make it so obvious. So obvious. So we were connecting the dots and figured it, then Anthony, we didn't know about Anthony, that name, like my name, Deanne. So you definitely don't expect me. But clearly there's bias in news. I say all that to say there's bias in news. Because even when people are killed by the police and or civilians, um, these people who are licensed to do harm to ourselves, to our brothers and sisters, and they get very little, if any, especially if it's a civilian. They're going to go to court. They'll find reason. And George Zimmerman was, I think he posted bond, and I don't think he spent any time in prison. I can be corrected on that, but my memory is really good. I don't believe he spent any time for the death of that young man. He killed that young man, and he was walking to the store. Something that we all take for granted. We have to have a bulletproof vest on to go to the store. He was minding his own business. They tried to dehumanize the young man and humanize this pig coward of George Zimmerman. So this is what we're dealing with. This is exactly what we're dealing with, and it is. I don't even want to say it's surprising because we're beyond that. Oh my gosh, in this country, I can't believe that. Oh, this is what we've been accustomed to, for many, many decades. Our ancestors went through this at some different type of level. Enslavement, obviously, that was horrific, and post slavery and Jim Crow and all that. But clearly, there is, the media has a stronghold on a lot of information, and obviously they send what they want to say about a person, or they try to dehumanize George Floyd. You know, $20 counterfeit bill was licensed to kill. But again, we are always on the other side of, you know, confusion, nonsense, death sometimes. And enough is enough. Enough is enough. But we have to call it out, the news. Perhaps you can maybe call the news station, because this is in media, this is proof positive that we have one media that is, when they're talking about a melanated brother or sister, it is usually, you know, you name it, the adjective, you can just fill in the blank, 23 different adjectives. So to say how horrible that person was, they would have had the parents home. Somebody would have had to get ability to speak to the first cousin, the second cousin, and whatever. But this is how we are treated in the media. This is so horrific because we are penalized, sometimes in death. We perish at the hands of police, fill in the blank. And then they dehumanize the person in death. Because Bolton Gaughan, I think, who was killed by Geiger, the police officer, female police officer. I mean, she was sexing, I think, her boyfriend after she. I don't know how they can humanize when they're talking about their own people, and then dehumanize when we've been, killed, or the man that was shot in the back, the officer held onto his t-shirt as he was throwing, putting bullets in his back, and I don't remember the name. There's so many this year. But this young man, I think he had 4 children, 3 children. It was just so sad just to witness that. And we're traumatized on these events. These are traumatic events. Even if it's not your cousin, even if it's not your sister, even if it's somebody you don't even know. An assault on one person that looks like me is an assault on every person that looks like me, because we are a global community. We are nationally connected. We are in the belly of the beast, this country. So clearly, we have common ground because we have similar experiences. Um, just for example, there was a person I was talking with today, and we both at some level have been, maybe not so much me, especially with this hair. So I don't, they're like, oh, she's probably 70 or 80, even though her skin looks like 40 or 50. But anyway, yeah, there's some level of profiling, you know, and we have to call it as it is. We have to call it as it is. And the policing and the profiling, it's enough. It's enough. We're over the top this year. I think this year, of all the years, obviously every situation that we've experienced, this is a tragedy. This year, it's just been one after the other, after the other, after the other. And I believe it's a saturation point because we are connected, um, theoretically, to the globally. We are connected. We are the original people. So we gave birth to everyone, right? This is the way we look at the situation. And with that, we know these people aren't as mature and seasoned. We've been on this planet more years than we haven't been on this planet. And so we have been able to, we see the beauty in life. We see the beauty in the peace of life. We see the beauty in the what I will say is the potential of life. So we see that, especially in our babies, we see that. But when we are our lives are taken prematurely, Trayvon Martin, he may have been an astronaut by now. He may have been in. I think he had a fascination of I think it was planes or whatever. But I'm saying he could have been fill in the blank, you know. And this coward pig of a wannabe police officer, he walked. He walked. So that was like 7 years ago. I believe it was 7 years ago. Um, I'm believing, yeah, it was about 6 or 7 years ago. I think, yeah, it's been about that amount of time. So it's an assault on our community. We experience that, and we experience it over and over and over again. And so enough. This is a year of enough, enough, enough. And I just want to say a sidebar, let us put down the weapons towards our people that look like me, sisters and brothers that look like you. Hey, what happened to the day of fighting in the street? I grew up in Brooklyn in 60s, 70s. I was real small in the 60s, so I won't get that or in your mind of like, oh, she is really old. But I'm seasoned. I'm seasoned. Yeah, people would, there were like tomahawks and jolly stompers. I mean, these were gangs, and so you very seldom somebody had a gun that was like, wow, somebody got shot, and they didn't shoot to, like fatally injure. Usually, just to incapacitate them, But you definitely they fought with chucks. They fought with their hands. Very seldom there was a gun involved. So I'm talking some years ago, obviously. Now, we have people who kill each other looking like I'm looking like me, and this is an assault. This is another type of assault. This is a psychological, because now you see your another sister or brother, melanated person, as an enemy, and so I charge people who, especially certain cities, it's like rampant. I think Chicago is one. It's just rampant. The black on black crime is just off the chain. I think it's way past New York. Chicago is really a tough. So I got a couple of relatives there, but it's a tough spot. But we need to pay attention to what's happening, the language that's used to describe this coward. And I want to say Anthony Warner. I think it was Warner, something like that. I know it was W. Um, he was a coward, a loner. He was a loner. He lived with his parents, and just almost having pity, because he was a loner, and saying, instead of saying, he could have killed, okay, there was only three um, people that were injured. Clearly, he didn't have any kind of crystal ball, because that was a sophisticated system that he put into place with a timer and everything. I figured he was in IT or at some level of that expertise. And actually, he had an alarm company that he knew about the timing. He knew about all these little moving parts that were important to execute that very well, like exceptionally well. And then last month, he did a property, I think a property he owned, someone in California. I mean, he had right mind thinking. he thought this through. And so when he set that timer and let them know 15 minutes, he didn't know if anyone was in, obviously, with surveillance, which is everywhere, they could figure out that person who drove up never left. He stayed in there and he blew up in there. But how dare he wanted to possibly take on, other life, innocent life. So this is the madness that, this is like an like a very, very strong indicator of what we are living amongst. Not to that extreme. I'm not trying to suggest that. What I am saying, these are the minds and hearts of people that feel we have to have, what's the motive? So if you can kill innocent people, potentially, he didn't know how many people would be just walking across the street. Okay. So is that a reason? Is there a motive ever? He thought it through, and it could have been much worse. Fortunately, it wasn't. But he wanted to kill himself. Hey, I'm not the one to stop you. But what I'm saying is, this is an insanity. This is how they're making an insane person sane. So this is our media 101. That's what they are really great at doing. They're really great at doing. And, I think about George Floyd. I think about Breonna Taylor. I think about all the sisters and brothers that were mutilated by the police officers. The one that it just came out from 2 years ago, from Chicago, and the melanated mayor tried to suppress it, to come out. And I mean, I hope when these things happen, I hope they clean shop. They take the police officers. If it was 12 people in that, when that lady was nude and, she didn't even want to move. She was just traumatized, because she knew if she made one false move, they had all weaponry and that it would have been justified. It would have been justified. And so she just was frozen, in that moment. And, I hope she has an attorney that will clean shop, because the only way we will be vindicated at some level is the pocketbook. So when we attack, like $5 million, I would go for 250 million, because you only get that attention when proof positive, this woman will have traumas. She has been traumatized. She may have to move and blah blah blah. But this is what we have been getting in this country. It has been magnified this year. I mean, all of the years prior. I already mentioned years that have gone past that people have been killed. But clearly, this has been the accelerator. And I really want Black on Black crime to end. And also, we are already bombarded by the police and whatever else will, citizens that want to take the law into their own hands. And, a lot of people are packing, as we will say. And so with that, I think I just came to mind that that's why they tried to infiltrate the Black Panthers, but they were talking about the Second Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Second Amendment, And so, for example, I think they're going to do a movie, and maybe a little bit later on next year, about the Fred Hampton. So I think that's good, about the Black Panther Party. Probably watered down, but nevertheless, I think something, positive will come out of it. But clearly, the Black Panthers were notorious. They were Second Amendment rights, And so this is what we really need to examine and examine carefully, because when we were watching the broadcast and trying to figure out, is he a Caucasian? Yeah, the language clearly, the language alone, he was a loner. It was almost like, a sympathetic feel, oh, he was alone, and anyway. So I want to segue into, in the moments we have left, COVID. COVID, COVID's going to be around. I do feel that in my heart of hearts. I feel COVID is going to be around 2021. COVID ain't going nowhere. I think it's just going to be another day on the calendar. But to hold on tight, we need to, eat better, drink a lot of water, take our supplements, immune boosting supplements, vitamin C, B complex. We need to have nutrient um, um, places that we can purchase vitamins. If you go to the health food store, you shop online or whatever. But if you want to get something, quote unquote, you want to get a late holiday or Kwanzaa present, get your family members supplements for immune boosting supplements. Vitamin C is like easy peasy. That is helpful, very, very helpful. Beta glucans, you can also get astragalus, B complex. Just search supplements for improving your immune system. Okay, so vitamin C out the gate. That's probably one of the one that's tried and true. Everyone can probably take vitamin C. But yeah, I don't think this is going away. I don't think it's going away. I think this is going to be kind of a new normal. The mask. Um, I really think this is here for a while, and I was thinking about Sylvia Browne, who predicted this, and she's passed on, but she predicted this like 12 years ago. I think the book was 2008. Um, and she predicted this pandemic. She predicted it. So I don't know which book, but perhaps you've seen it across the YouTubes and the different clips on social media. But clearly, she knew, she had an insight of this coming. I don't think it's going to magically, I Dream a Genie. It's not going to go anywhere fast. I think it's going to be a slow moving situation. I think there's a lot of people will have perished and will unfortunately perish. And I'm going to mention the sister that the physician out of Indiana, and she recently perished from COVID-19. And she was mentioning her mistreatment as a physician. As a physician, she felt that theoretically, in her mind, she should have been treated like, a colleague. But I could see that in one area, but you are, I don't want to say the N word, but you know, that's what they see us as, with all our accolades and education and degrees and um, you name it. I mean, we have businesses, we have, our wealth, on a national or global scale. It's really like the size of a country. So it's just that we don't spend amongst each other, so we don't build generational wealth. We spend more than but anyway, that's another conversation about another time. But yeah, clearly she felt a certain kind of way of her treatment, and rightfully so. I'm not going to say anything disparaging because the sister has transitioned on, and I don't want to do any ill speaking, in her passing. But what I will say, we are still seen in this country um, as uneducated in, or an uneducated in, you're still an inward. I don't I try not to use the word in my life off camera. I'm not going to use it now. But clearly, she just had a higher. She really felt that she would have been treated, quote unquote, better. Well, what is that to say about people who are not, quote unquote, educated? They don't have all the letters behind their names. So they still have a right to life and living. And the COVID-19, I believe deep down, this is a level of extermination. I'm just going to say it. It's a level of extermination. And we have to face facts. The main thing, your goal right now as a melanated person, or perhaps not a melanated person, to stay out of the hospital. Stay out of the hospital, stay out of the hospital, stay out of the hospital. We have to, this is a winter. So you should be a little bit more internal, a little bit more, planting seeds for the spring, for the harvest in the spring. So not a lot of busyness, a lot of, going around, going here, going there. And just be still and know you are God. So, in that knowing, there's a time, there's a season for everything. This is our season to be probably a little bit more indoors. Um, if you gather, one or two people, cherish that time, cherish that person, and, don't take anything for granted. I mean, this is perhaps our lesson for this year. Don't take anything or anyone for granted. You know, Stay out of the hospital. Not even surgery, unless it is required. But you just don't know. I think this is a level of extermination, and so we have to do our due diligence of saying, I don't need to go anywhere close to a hospital. I need to, you might not eat crappy food. You can't, drink crappy soda. You can't, not exercise. Even if you just walk. I walked this evening to a park. It's like maybe, I guess, round trip or so. It's like maybe 2.5 miles. But, it was good. I didn't even have a mask on, and it was good to breathe fresh air, see the children around and playing and all that. But clearly we need to be, we have to take this as serious as it comes, because I think this is a level of extermination. Okay. And so people who are dying now, it's under the umbrella of COVID, because there may be some funds involved. I haven't done all the research, so I will maybe have that next time. But there are some quote unquote incentives. So people, they deal with money all the time. So if you money rules, as you probably know that by now if you've been in this country any amount of time. Money is the moving force. So if money is involved and hospitals are getting quote unquote perks, how many people dying from COVID? Even if you're dying from a heart attack or a stroke or heart disease or whatever, they're putting it under the umbrella of COVID, you know. So we have to be mindful of all of that, because I know that this too shall pass, but I think it's going to be a slow, this too shall pass. So we're in it for a long haul. Do your due diligence to stay healthy, stay healthy. Probably fast food, not. Probably a lot of water, a lot of, an apple, an organic apple. I can get organic. The store that I go to right down the street, they have organic, an assortment of organic. So, organic bag of apples like $3.99. You're not breaking the bank necessarily. So we have to make better choices in our dietary selection. I'm not trying to say 100%, 100%, 100% vegetarian, vegan, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Like I said, back in a few topics earlier than this, probably last week or so, 5 to 10% of meat. You know, this should be your category of other fruits, vegetables, nuts, and grains. That's what we should be eating. So sharpen up your dietary requirements. We should want to eat better. We should want to exercise. We should want to, breathe fresh air. We should want to live a long time on this planet. So um, anything to the contrary, that is unacceptable. We should make it unacceptable. So we're coming up on the mark of cutoff, but I just wanted to share those two topics, with you, and we'll be back tomorrow. And I look forward to your comments, and don't forget to follow me on the social media platforms, and I look forward to reading your comments and perhaps hearing from you. All right, this is Deanne. Have a wonderful, safe, pleasant night. All right, peace.